Okay, hello, welcome. We're trying something a little bit different here because I had a league going on this morning, and I really liked the results in it. Obviously, it's probably in the title, it's probably in the thumbnail, so you know what the results were. But it was with this deck. If you're noticing the weird borders around everything, it's because I've since returned these cards to Mana Traders. But also I have a blanket draped over me and I don't feel like setting up my lighting, so that's why it's just audio and no webcam for this one. So trying something a little bit different. So this is the deck here that we are playing today. Pretty standard blue-white list: Esper Sentinel, Giver of Runes, Aether Vial, Stoneforge Mystic, Thalia. I've been surprised by Meddling Mage. I've gone back and forth on whether or not I like Meddling Mage in the deck, and I'm back on the plus side with it because a lot the meta is homogenizing a little bit, which means Meddling Mage gets better. Yeah, as you'll see in this league. And then Unsettled Mariner, still impressed by it. We're still on the taxation plan here. People are playing some pretty greedy mana bases these days, and so we will punish them with Unsettled Mariner. For the equipment package, we got Cauldron Complete, Batter Skull, and maybe a bit controversial, Maul of the Skyclaves, and no Sword of Fire and Ice. Maul of the Skyclaves has impressed. There were times when I was not playing Maul that I really wish I had it, and so I'm bringing it in instead of Sword of Fire and Ice. I've been unimpressed with Sword of Fire and Ice. And the thing that you'll notice with all of these is they create value instantly with the auto attach and with the living weapon of Batter Skull and Cauldron Complete. Modern is so fast right now that if I'm having to equip a equipment, pay that extra mana for it, it's not gonna work. Like, it's just not creating value for me. So we are playing all these auto equip cards. And then also a full 4 of Prismatic Ending instead of Path to Exile. This kills like pretty much everything you want it to kill, and for cheap. And it hits more than just creatures as well. It can hit an Amulet of Vigor, it can hit an Aether Vial, it can hit all kinds of stuff. And then in the mana base, to support Prismatic Ending, we're playing Fetch Lands in 2 Arid Mazes, 2 Flooded Strands, and 2 Marsh Flats. Doing that configuration because the Flooded Strands were putting me over my rental limit on Mana Traders, so I swapped 2 of them for for another Pathway and another Marsh Flats. Playing a Singleton Island, but again, to support Prismatic Ending, we've got in a Godless Shrine, and we've also got in a Rogarin Triome, the Jeskai Triome. So if we've got nothing going on turn 1 or any other turn where we don't need to have a land come into play untapped, we'll just fetch up the Triome, because why not? And it makes our Prismatic Endings even stronger. Still got the 2 of Glasspool Mimic as to shore up our mana base, and then Amiria's Call to shore up the mana base a little bit more while also pitching to Solitude, one of the best cards in the deck, for sure. And in the sideboard, so Yorion is obviously there for our companion. So I've been really impressed with Reflector Mage as opposed to Deputy of Detention, because Reflector Mage is really, really great against stuff like Murktide Regent, quite specifically, but also things like a Dragon's Rage. If there's a Dragon's Rage Channeler, we just bounce it. They can't get it out for another turn. They can't get the value off of all the surveilling. Kataki's War's Wage, sorry. There's a lot of artifact-based decks, really great against Hammer Time, and so we'll see if we go up against that. We won't. And then kind of our graveyard package in 2 Rest of Peace and 3 Sanctifier and Vec. I went back and forth on whether I wanted a 3rd Rest in Peace or a 3rd Sanctifier, and the 3rd Sanctifier seemed to be the right choice. It really came into... Yeah, Sanctifier was a very positive force in the deck during this league. And then the spice, to end all spice here, is the 3 of Cerulean Drake. Basically, I went onto Scryfall and I searched flying protection from red, and this was the only modern legal card in white and blue that came up. So so it's in. That's the only reason. And then it also has the added side effect of maybe sometimes countering a Thought Seize or a Lightning Bolt that's coming at the dome. And so yeah, so that's the deck. Happy with so far. I've actually bought this deck in paper. I need to pick up my, what am I picking up? I got to pick up Amiria's Call from the game store. I need another Flooded Strand. I've only got 2, but anyways, we're going to go into the matches via these replays. And let's start off with against Heart of Arathis. This went 3 games. So we're trying something a little different here. We'll see how this goes. And we lost the die roll on this one. Opponents deciding whether or not they want to go first. Look at this Yorion. Ooh, I went back. Went a little too far. I had a lot of 3-drops. I had lands, but I had mostly 3-drops. And I decided, no, I don't want to keep this hand, so I sent it back. And this hand looked a lot better. What I'm looking for now in opening hands, is if I see Loris as a companion on the opponent's side, I need either Giver of Runes, Prismatic Ending, or Esper Sentinel in my opening hand. I will mulligan until I get that, because we currently live in fear of the monkey. So this hand looked good. I've got basically everything I want, and I'm putting a Field of Ruin to the bottom of my library. So the game starts off Catacombs into an Overgrown Tomb. I'm starting to wonder what he's playing, and he plays an Ignoble Hierarch. So at this point I'm thinking, okay, maybe combo goblins. Do I bring out this Prismatic Ending right away? But no, I decide I'll just go with Giver of Runes instead to start off with. We pass the turn. Plays a Forest. He plays an Essence Warden, and I realize, oh, okay, he's not playing goblins. He's playing something else. And he plays Yawgmoth with Undying. And I start thinking, okay, this is probably Yawgmoth. And we'll see if that prediction comes true. We draw another land. We play this, and of course, we're getting out our Stoneforge Mystic. And they get the Essence Warden triggers. So what do we get here with Stoneforge Mystic? Obviously, with the backup of Giver of Runes, we of course get ourselves a Cauldron, because there's no way in this Green Earth that Stoneforge Mystic is being removed, so Cauldron seems to be the right choice in this position. Opponent plays a land, gets themselves a Dryad Arbor, which is an interesting choice. We'll see why in a moment. So we draw a land, and we just bring out Cauldron. One thing I've been trying to do a lot more is to play lands as late as possible. Trying to think more, be more focused on what lands I want to play. So I'm doing them a little bit later these days. Try to tighten up my gameplay a little bit in some ways. So there we go with the plains. And I decide just to kill that Essence Warden because I was worried about a infinite life combo with Yawgmoth coming up. And we get ourselves a Chord of Calling, X equals 3. Fetches up a Grist. Grist was annoying in this deck to go up against, to say the least. Plays an Ermagerd Urberg Term of Yawgmoth, and Yawgmoth himself appears. So there he is. So now I'm starting to think, okay, we need to make something happen here. I'm really glad I have this Cauldron, because this Cauldron is just going to be a straight up clock against him. And sacrifices the Yawgmoth to the Grist. Trying to kill, with this ability, he's targeting my Giver of Runes to give it -1/-1. Oh no, with the Grist to destroy the Giver of Runes. So I just give my Giver of Runes protection from black. Or green, one of the two. But in response, he activates Yawgmoth twice to kill it. To kill the Stoneforge Mystic. So he's almost completely cleaned off my board except for this Cauldron. And we draw exactly what we needed in Skyclave Apparition. So we'll attack, see what our opponent does here. See if he's got any appetite to block here. And he doesn't. So we go ahead, we play a land. We don't need to fetch with that Marsh Flats, but we thought better of it anyways. We still should fetch for it. Fetch for like our Triome. So we get rid of the Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth, I tend to think if the deck is named after the card, and that card is on the battlefield, we should probably kill that creature. So it gets -1/-1 whenever we see it. So our hand is a bit light right now. So he makes a little token. Wall of Roots comes out on the opponent's side. Yeah, opponent taps his land properly. We see a Strangleroot Geist. Does he want to attack with it? No, he does not. Does not feel like it. There we go. And my air conditioner turns itself off. We drew a land there, by the way, sorry. And we drew an Aether Vial. Really not what we want to be drawing here. So I decide I'm gonna ignore this Grist, because Grist cannot kill the Germ nor the Cauldron. So we're just gonna go in and smash face instead. And annoyingly, he's gonna block here with Wall of Roots. Which makes me kind of wonder if something like Basilisk Collar could be a good piece of equipment in this deck. Like as I don't know, I don't remember if it costs 1 or not. So we buy Yorion here and we play an Aether Vial. Because now we're up to 5 lands, and next turn we'll be able to recast Yorion. And our opponent decides to play Eldritch Evolution on the Strangleroot Geist. So that is X plus 2. Strangleroot Geist costs 2, so he's getting himself... Take a guess. Take a guess, Yawgmoth. So pluses with Grist to give himself some more stuff so that he can kill my Skyclave Apparition with Yawgmoth. He doesn't attack, which I thought was interesting. So I decide to fetch here, get the Triome, because why not? There's no reason not to. All I need is this Godless Shrine, and I can kill the Yawgmoth with a Prismatic Ending. So we play that, and we play a Godless Shrine. We don't think we need to do anything about that, so we'll attack. Blocks with the Big Old Illusion. We get in for 1 damage. And we decide just to cast Yorion here, flickering our Cauldron Complete to give it to Semi-Vigilance. And guess what? Cauldron's back, baby. One of the nice things about Yorion, it can hit non-creatures. It's just non-land permanents. I remember the glory days of Standard playing Yorion alongside stuff like Omen of the Sea, Elspeth Conquers Death. Alright, so here's a Court of Calling for a Wall of Roots, which I thought was interesting. I would have thought he'd get a Strangleroot Geist here just to get basically an infinite combo. But instead wants to kill our Yorion with Grist. So I would imagine he got Wall of Roots because he wanted to have a blocker for this Phyrexian Germ. Drew a land, not really what we wanted. So when you got a Cauldron Complete on the field and a health advantage, you just attack with it. So again, that Zulaport Cutthroat being annoying. Wonder if maybe he was out of Strangleroot Geists. So on his upkeep, I activate Meddling Mage, choosing Essence Warden to stop any life shenanigans, but I don't think that was important. I don't think he cared particularly about that. Tap some mana, tap some lands, untap some lands, and cast Geralf's Messenger. I'm starting to think maybe we're dead, but uses the Geralf's Messenger instead to, or the Yawgmoth to start bringing down Phyrexian Germ. So here I thought for sure I was dead. Because I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he had an infinite combo here. With those two Strangleroot Geists. Or with the Strangleroot Geist and the Geralf's Messenger. But I could be wrong. Because he basically had infinite life with the Zulaport Cutthroat. And he would kill me either with Zulaport Cutthroat triggers or with Geralf's Messenger triggers. So we draw Skyclave Apparition, the exact card we needed. We figured we would just cast it. So we were going to cast it, but then we thought, okay, you know what? There's another play here. And I wonder if you might want to, if you could see what the line potentially is here. But we use the Skyclave Apparition on Yawgmoth here. And he decides he wants to kill the Phyrexian Germ here. Yeah, he decides he wants to kill the Phyrexian Germ. We lose a life, yeah. Powers down the Meddling Mage. So here's my idea. We're gonna equip Cauldron Complete onto Skyclave Apparition, giving it haste. And that's lethal. Oh no, it's not, it's if it weren't for the Zulaport. That's what I thought. I thought, yeah, this is definitely lethal. But no, it was not actually. Surprise, he's at 1 life. So he draws a card, plays a land. Then he plays Geralf's Messenger. He destroys our Meddling Mage, bringing us to 1 life. And he's 1 life short from killing me. And there we go. So that's game 1. We won that one. Game 2. Spoiler, he's going to win this game. You could probably see that. Opponent decides to go first. Oh, okay. So, sideboarding decisions. So, I took out my Esper Sentinels because he's not playing many non-creature spells. So, I just took him out. I took out 1. I also trimmed on 1 Teferi, and which means I brought in. What did I bring in here? I don't know my own sideboard. What did I bring in here? I need to look at my sideboard. I brought in... What did I bring in? Oh yeah, I brought in not Deputy Detention, Reflector Mages. In this case, and Rest in Pieces. I brought 2 Rest in Peace and 3 Reflector Mages. Because Rest in Peace stops most of the combo shenanigans. So we see this hand. We know what we're up against. We've got an Aether Vial, and we've got some removal in Reflector Mage, Prismatic Ending. Meddling Mage could just name Yawgmoth if we wanted it to. So that's kind of what I was thinking at that point. Doesn't always stop Yawgmoth from coming out. We drew it to Fairy, which we're pretty happy about. Let me pass the turn. The Cutthroat is out and Thoughtseize. He probably boarded those in. Takes out our Prismatic Ending. Wah wah. So we up the vial. We draw a Cauldron Complete, which we're not thrilled about. So we cast a Meddling Mage here because I saw that if he played a land, he could play Yawgmoth, and we don't want that, so we name Yawgmoth. And then we just pass the turn. So yeah, he does in fact have the land. And I really hope that one of the cards in his hand was in fact Yawgmoth, because that would have been sweet. Not blocking here because that's now a 2/2 thanks to Ignoble Hierarch. And just casts a Grist. Makes a token. And passes turn. So we tick up our vial. We hope to draw land. We did draw land. It's not exactly the land we wanted, but it's a land. And we decide here we're going to play Teferi. So we had some options here. We could Reflector Mage targeting like Zulaport Cutthroat or the Insect. We could play another Aether Vial, although that seemed less likely. What I decided to do in this case was cast Teferi and minus it targeting the insect, just to get that insect off the board, forcing him to, if he wants to use Grist here, sacrifice one of these guys. If he wants to attack with Zulaport Cutthroat into Teferi, that's fine. Teferi has now replaced itself. It drew me a land, which I was desperate for. So to me, Teferi had done what we want him to do. And we can just go in. I should have attacked there in hindsight. I really should have attacked there in hindsight to get rid of that Ignoble Hierarch. So that was a mistake for sure. So he sacrifices Ignoble Hierarch. Drains us for 1. Uses the Grist to kill the Meddling Mage. And then there is Big Yawgs. And then uses the Zulaport Cutthroat to kill Teferi. It wouldn't have stopped that line, him from doing that line, because Grist, but it wouldn't have meant Grist would have died. And this Grist proved pretty important, as you'll see. So next turn, we up the vial, we get an Unsettled Mariner. So Unsettled Mariner, really like this card against Yawgmoth. So we decide to play that untapped, or tapped, because we're just going to Reflector Mage here. And we intended, oh no, we did, oh yeah, we played the Unsettled Mariner, and then we were going to Aether Vial out the Reflector Mage. And I totally intended for this Reflector Mage to bounce Yawgmoth. But there's a little line of text on Yawgmoth here that says, protection from humans. Reflector Mage is a human. So I could not target it with the bounce ability, so I had to bounce the Zulaport Cutthroat instead. I say that I noticed that, and I say it in the chat. To no response. We're actually quite close to cast. Well, we're not quite close. We need 3 more lands to be able to cast this Cauldra. So he makes a little token. Plays Ye Old Geralf's Messenger. He needs to pay 1 mana if he wants me to lose 1 life. Or lose the 2 life, which he does. He obliges. So this is why I like. This is why Unsettled Mariner is so good against Yawgmoth, because every single time he wants to use it on one of my creatures or use Geralf's Messenger for the kill, he needs to pay mana for that. Alright, so we keep going, we up both our Aether Vials, we drew a land which we didn't want, we use it to destroy the Twilight Mire, which spiked in price like today for some reason, and we use the rest of our mana to buy us a Yorion, and then we pass the turn. Plays a Dryad Arbor. So there's Zulaport Cutthroat. Sacrifices to destroy Unsettled Mariner, I believe he does here. Yeah. Destroys the Mariner. And then starts sacrifice the Geralf's Messenger to put a -1/-1 counter on Reflector Mage and deal some damage to us. And then we notice that he's got 2 Undying creatures together all at once, and we concede the game. And we see that he knows how to do the combo this time, and so we concede. Because he's going to repeatedly bring this back. He's going to gain life from the Zulaport Cutthroat. We're either dying through infinite Zulaport Cutthroat triggers or infinite Grixis Messenger triggers. So we're mega dead there. I don't feel like making him click through it, and because I just wanted to get on with it. And we start up game number 3. So I decide I want to play first, of course. Look at this sweet, sweet Yorion. This hand seems pretty good to me. Giver of Runes. We got the Giver of Runes into Stoneforge Mystic opening, which seems pretty great. We get ourselves a Godless Shrine because we've got a blue source. We got another white source and a blue source. So we're just trying to actively power up Prismatic Ending. Just trying to power up Prismatic Ending. Alright, opponent leads off with a Forest and an Essence Warden. And then, of course, we've got it, so we got to play it. Stoneforge Mystic. Of course, we're getting Cauldra in this context, because Cauldra was unbelievably good. Not attacking with the Giver of Runes because we want to protect our Stoneforge Mystic. There's a Strangleroot Geist. He decides not to attack, which was the smart move, because I would just block with Stoneforge, give it pro green. We draw the Prismatic Ending, but not a land. Well, we did draw a land in. All right, so we bring out Culture Complete. And we're sandbagging this land just to see what happens here. See if he wants to block, maybe. Of course he doesn't. Yeah. And it's at this point I probably should have killed that Essence Warden, because the game probably would have ended much sooner had I killed that Essence Warden sooner. But I did not. So he's going to sacrifice the Strangleroot Geist to kill my Giver of Runes, which is a big womp womp. So I was hoping to draw land here, and I did. So I did something kind of cheeky here. So, no, I didn't. I just played Thalia, and then I could have done this the other way. I intended on doing this differently. I could have just cast Prismatic Ending and then Thalia, but for some reason I decided to play Thalia and then Prismatic Ending. Or I decided just to not cast Prismatic Ending. Oh, I bet you I kept it in my hand to pitch to Solitude in case of a Yawgmoth. And I wanted to keep the other Solitude up. Or keep the other Solitude to be able to cast, because I was only one land away from being able to cast it. Instead, we draw a third Solitude. And we attack with both. See what his appetite is. Okay, yeah, blocks with the insect, forgetting maybe that his first strike. Nope, he's going to cast a Court of Calling here. So I think my opponent screwed up here and thought his X equaled 3, when in fact it only, or thought his X equaled 1, or sorry, math. He thought X equaled 4 here. But because Thalia is out, it taxes him for 1. So I feel like he thought he was being able to get Yawgmoth here. But instead, it's for 3, so he gets Grixis Messenger, the best 3-drop in his deck. Besides Grist, which he already has out. So in this is a situation where I decide to play Prismatic Ending on the Grixis Messenger. So that's why we keep... we actually tap this for black mana because he has Urborg out and kept the Godless Shrine back. So, well, you know, pretty cheeky way of doing it. So it's opponent's turn. Big Yawgs is here. And we decide we're just going to kill it. Exile a Solitude to evoke a Solitude. This Essence Warden continuing to gain a bunch of life. We do still lose our Thalia, unfortunately. Because the trigger is still on the stack. He's gained like a ton of life off this Essence Warden. So we draw a card, we draw a Skyclave Apparition, which is very nice. I don't remember at this point if I cast it or not, or if I just held on to it. Would have liked a land as well, but it is what it is. So we get in with that, and yes, we do cast the Skyclave Apparition, leaving ourselves a little bit vulnerable, but I use it to hit take out that Grist, because we don't that Grist. If I don't take out the Grist, if I take like the Essence Warden, he'll use Grist on this insect to kill Skyclave Apparition. I wanted Skyclave Apparition just to stick around a little bit longer. So our opponent plays a Wall of Roots. A literal wall against our Phyrexian Germ. Another Geisty Geist. And I hope to draw land here. That's my hope. I'm like, land. Come on, land. Oh, Flicker Wisp. Not what I wanted. So we attack with the Germ. And the question here becomes, do we cast the Flicker Wisp to get value off of Skyclave Apparition or Stoneforge Mystic? Or do we hold on to it to keep Solitude up? We cast the Flicker Wisp here. That's what we ended up doing, targeting our Skyclave Apparition. This, looking back, reflecting on this, it might have been a bit hairy doing this. If we had gotten our Stoneforge Mystic flickered, we could get like our Mauled Skyclaves, which would have been excellent. But we decide to take the Essence Warden finally. So at this point I'm thinking, oh god, that's 4 mana, he's going to cast Yawgmoth. Instead he casts a Ignoble Hierarch and a Reclamation Sage, which he probably boarded in. Automatically targets the Cauldron Complete, but unfortunately that does not work because it is indestructible. Realizes he's got a free attack here with the Illusion. I decide not to do anything about it, using my life as a resource here. We drew not a land, which we really wanted. We attack with the Flicker Wisp as well because we really just want to get his life total down. That's all we want to do right now. We need to get his life total down quicker than he can get our life total down. So we bring him down to 6, and we pass the turn at this point. Keeping Giver of Runes in our hand so that we can pitch to Solitude. Because lo and behold, he's going to Eldritch Evolution that Reclamation Sage to get Yawgmoth. Activates it once, and I'm like, nope, this is bad. So we evoke another Solitude, the one that we've been keeping in our back pocket this whole time for this exact situation. He does gain himself some life and gets a second 3/2 out of the situation, and kills our Flicker Wisp to boot. Gets himself another young wolf. Realize he's got some pretty good attacks here that he can make, but only attacks with the Illusion instead. I decide to block with the Skyclave Apparition because I wanted to hold on to my Stoneforge Mystic in case I drew like a Batterskull or something. Passes the turn, and instead we draw a land, which was a turn too late. So we decide to put Yorion into our hand and pass the turn without attacking because we needed to be on defense a little bit here. If I had attacked here, I would have been dead on the crackback. So instead, I just stand back, see what happens. He's got a Grist, which is going to kill our Stoneforge Mystic, unfortunately. I was hoping to hold on to that with this Yorion. So he attacks with both. Just attacks with all 3 because that's lethal if I don't block. So obviously I'm going to block. Block one of the Strangler Root Geists. Just get a little bit more cardboard off of his battlefield because I can kill the illusion pretty easily with Flicker Wisp if I were to get another one. He passed the turn, and we draw a Stoneforge Mystic. So, pretty easy puzzle here. Find the lethal. We cast a Stoneforge Mystic. We search. We get ourselves a Maul of the Skyclaves. We cast the Maul of the Skyclaves. Equip it to the Germ. Bada boom. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes. So there we are. Game 1, or match 1, against Golgari Yawgmoth in the bag. So here we go. Let's just move right on to match number 2 against our opponent, Astral Plane. So we're back to a game 1 situation here. So I'm looking at this hand, and I'm like, man, this is a lot of Thalias. It's an untapped. It's a tapped land, and I don't think I want to keep this hand. So I pitch it. No, I kept it. I thought I pitched this one, but I kept it. Oh yeah, if I was on the play, I would have pitched it, but I kept it on the draw. It didn't matter in this because of what you will soon see. So we drew a land that we wanted. So we start off with an Esper Sentinel. We see that we are up against. We see they're up against blue-red Prowess. So he plays a Monastery Swiftspear, plays a land, plays another Monastery Swiftspear, and then the disgusting thing happens when he casts a Mishra's Bauble. We do get to draw a card. We drew another land. Plays a Mishra's Bauble. Plays another Mishra's Bauble, triggering Prowess all 3 times. Looks at the top card of my library, and then attacks with all 3. Attacks for 9 damage on turn 2. Thanks to Mishra's Bauble. I decide I don't want to block. If I'm going to take it, I'm going to take it. I'm thinking, all right, I think I'm dead this turn. I think I'm dead this game anyways. So our opponent draws a card. We draw another land, 3rd land in a row. So we play that land as a blue source, and then we cast a Thalia. And we pass turn. Hoping that we stay alive. Plays a Dragon's Rage Channeler. Cracks the fetch land. Lava darts us. Come on. Doesn't pay the 1, so we get to draw a card. We draw a 4th land in a row. Kills Thalia. Sacrifices a mountain. Kills Esper Sentinel. Triggers Prowess a 3rd time, and we're dead on turn 3. So there we go. At this point, I'm getting a little bit nervous, but, you know, you see that there's 2 more games coming up, so you know what's going to happen here. So we decide to go first. Check out the Sweet Yorion. So I'm looking at this hand. I'm seeing a Meddling Mage. I'm seeing a Stoneforge Mystic. I'm not seeing another land. So this was a pretty tough keep or mull decision. I decide to keep it. Whoops. Nope. Stop. Nope. Stop. Sorry. Press the wrong button. He Mishra's Bauble himself. Fetches for Steam Vents. And we draw good old Sanctifier Invec right on time. And we cast it. So let's see if Sanctifier Invec is good in this matchup. Oh, by the way, sideboard. Okay, sideboarding. So we boarded out 2 Flicker Wisps and all 3 Teferis. I know Teferi, you know, take out Teferi here seems questionable, but I don't. It seems like the Prowess deck doesn't play too much on the end step, and I needed to cut something. I also cut out all my vials because I boarded in all of my Cerulean Drakes. I boarded in all of, which is 3. I boarded in 3 Sanctifier and Vex, and I boarded in the 3 Reflector Mages. So I needed to take something out. I like taking out Aether Vial in these Prowess matchups because it is just an absolute dead draw. most of the time, unless it's on turn 1. Gets himself a Soul Scar Mage, misses his land drop, and passes the turn. We also miss our land drop, but so we instead play Meddling Mage, naming Lightning Bolt. We name Lightning Bolt here because with Sanctifier and Vec, we're no longer threatened by Lava Dart, because Lava Dart you no longer get the flashback because it'll not hit the graveyard. And so Lightning Bolt is really the main one we are worried about. And Unholy Heat, but I wasn't sure if this version of the deck was playing Unholy Heat. So there's the Channeler. We draw land, which is great. I like Glacial Fortress, by the way. I don't think this card gets played enough in Tax's decks, especially ones that have fetches. So we play our Skyclave Apparition. We don't want him getting any value off of that Dragon's Rage Channeler, so we will exile it, and why not attack with both? I'm like, if you got Gut Shot, you got Gut Shot, buddy. So there we go. Didn't think he had it, so... Opponent misses his land drop again and passes the turn, discarding a Lava Dart for hand size. Again, I would have loved a land there, but such is life. We cast ourselves a Stoneforge Mystic. So what would you fetch in this situation? What would you fetch in this situation? Do you get a Maul the Skyclaves because you're worried about Stoneforge Mystic dying? I think in this case, I was not worried about Stoneforge Mystic dying. So I just got myself a Cauldra. Play the Giver because why not? And we pass the turn. Attacking with the... we don't pass, we attack with these two creatures first. We kept back Meddling Mage because we were worried about maybe a Lava Dart hitting our... because, yeah... like a Soul Scar Mage blocks, Lava Dart something, we're dead. I was worried about that. Sorry, my allergies are acting up here. Okay, so there's the Unholy Heat. Takes out our Giver of Runes and our, potentially our Skyclave Apparition dies. And I figured, you know what, he's down on lands. We can afford to go down on cards here to just kill that thing. So we pass the turn. Opponent still misses his land drops and just concedes. Sees that he has no way to kill that Stoneforge Mystic and knows that a Cauldron Complete is about to ram down his skull and just concedes. So we got this opening hand. This opening hand is terrible. There's no white sources, and we got 1, 2, 3 double white cards. So we pitch it, and we draw a much better hand. So we keep this one, and we put a... what did we put on? What did we put down underneath? I think we put a land underneath. So opponent starts, plays the land, and I believe... a Seer of Visions. I believe these decks play Seer of Visions because... oh, jeez, no, stop. So that makes it easier to activate Delirium, or enable Delirium, I should say. So he Lava Darts us, but we do get to draw a card, and we draw a Cerulean Drake. So we get to, maybe we get to see Cerulean Drake in action here. We draw a Batterskull, which is the opposite of a land. We do not want that. Meddling Mage naming Lightning Bolt last time seemed pretty good, so we're going to do it this time. Plays a Swift Spear, Mishra's Bauble. Looks at the top card of my library and attacks. Of course, we are not going to block because we don't want him to cast Lightning Bolt, obviously. We drew the opposite of a land again. So we attack with the Meddling Mage. We just want to get his life total down because we're probably not blocking the Swift Spear anytime soon. We play Amiria, untapped, so that we can Prismatic Ending. So whether I played this tapped or untapped was a harder decision than I originally anticipated. If I play it tapped, I can't do Prismatic Ending and Giver of Runes, or Prismatic Ending and Cerulean Drake. But if I do it tapped, I don't lose 3 life, which is very important in this matchup. But I decide to play it untapped, and so I can get at the Cerulean Drake. And now I got a brick wall against all of his red creatures. This is kind of analogous to like Burrington Forge Tender as a card. Come on, replay, let's go. There we go. We drew another Cerulean Drake, which is not a land. So we play Glasspool Shore, which is the other side of our Glasspool Mimic, just to make sure we're hitting our land drops in case of we draw another one so that we can play Batterskull. We're playing the backsides of all of these lands here, which is fun. And we decide just to play another Cerulean Drake. So opponent draws a card, gets his mountain, passes the turn. And we draw, what do we draw? Come on. We draw not a land, so we get a Thalia. So Thalia here does mean we are going to need to draw 2 more lands to play Batterskull if Thalia survives. But we play the Thalia anyways, because it is good in this matchup. It's really, really good. So here I attack with everything, both the Cerulean Drakes, which I think maybe is a mistake. But I was maybe leaning on Giver of Runes here to protect me. He casts a Lava Dart here. We just give protection from red, and that's the end of it. Maybe he forgot about our Giver of Runes. Maybe he's going to the reason I did that was I'm like, I don't think he's going to sacrifice this mountain. He's been missing his land drops all game. I don't think he's going to want to sacrifice this mountain to try to do it again. So he does find a land though. So he passes the turn. And we keep clicking and see if Mitgo will do anything. So we draw a Prismatic Ending. We continue to click until it happens. We decide we're going to kill this Monastery Swiftspear. And we go in for some attacks. We attack with everything, which here in hindsight, I think, okay, maybe this is a mistake. Maybe I should have kept back 1 Cerulean Drake, in case he's got like a big hasty creature and a bunch of spells. So we pass the turn, bringing him down to 7. We're just shy of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got lethal on board if we really need it. And opponent has nothing in hand, I guess, and concedes. Okay, we are back, and this is probably one of the more interesting matches in this league. I remember this one really well, and it was a very neat matchup. So we reveal our Yorion, and I see a Lurrus of the Dream Den on the other side, and I look at this hand, and I think, okay, maybe. We are on the draw. But we're pretty short on lands, but we definitely have answers to any kind of monkey shenanigans, but it's a little too risky. So we pitch it, and we get a really good hand in response. We put a Thalia on bottom, and let's just go for it. So let's see what we're up against. It's a Blackcleave Cliffs, and yep, Darcy. Darcy is here and in charge. And we draw a Unsettled Mariner, which is kind of okay. But we definitely need to get something here. So we get ourselves a Plains. I decide to get a Plains because I don't want to lower my life total more than I need to. And we've got the Hengegate pathway for the blue source with Mariner, if we really need it. And we just play a Esper Sentinel. So we get Inquisitioned. Kozilek, which wasn't really something I was expecting. He surveils a Ragavan into his graveyard. And he takes Stoneforge Mystic, so oh well. Decides to attack with the Dragon's Rage Channeler. I let it through. This Esper Sentinel has not replaced itself yet, so we are going to... But it also has not replaced itself, but has cost him an extra mana for that Inquisition, so it's made itself worth it. Plus, I knew I was going to play either Thalia or Unsettled Mariner next turn, and I decided for Thalia here to really, really tax him on his mana, which is really what we're trying to do in this deck. So we get an Unholy Heat targeting Thalia. Had to pay 1 extra for that, and so we get to draw a card. So Esper Sentinel has now paid for itself, or replaced itself. And then that's fine. He gets in again with Darcy. We decide, yeah, you know what, champ, you can have that. So we play a Pathway, and we go in with Giver Runes and Unsettled Mariner to have a bit of protection for our creatures and continue to tax their removal, with the expectation that hopefully we'll be able to play this Small the Skyclaves next turn. So then he plays Kroxa, and I'm like, okay, now what? So I have a choice here. So he stacks a trigger. So I have a choice here. In response to the trigger, I could exile this Small the Skyclaves to Solitude away the Kroxa, which will get it out of the graveyard. There are 4 cards currently in his graveyard. So he only needs 1 more to be able to escape it, but he's 2 whole lands away from being able to escape. But also, he hasn't played a land yet this turn, and I'm not sure if he's got a land in his hand. So I had to think about this for a bit. I think my timer goes from 23 to... yeah, I take a full 30 seconds to think about that, and I decide on the if I don't use it, I'm gonna discard Solitude, keep Maul the Skyclaves in my hand, and then I've got a big beater. But eventually this Kroxa is coming back, and maybe even next turn, and I will not, and then my Maul the Skyclaves is gonna look like a joke. So I decide instead to go with the Solitude plan. Unfortunately, our opponent gains 6 life from that, so oh well. So we pass, and we just draw another Solitude instead. So there we go. We attack with the Mariner, and I pay 3 to get Yorion into my hand, just in case I need to use the Solitude, just in case. So our opponent plays a land, fetches. He's now got Delirium enabled. Attacks. I figure, okay, yeah, I think I could probably take some damage here for this. And we pass the turn. We find a land. Play the land. Tapped, because we have no plays for it regardless. Get in with a couple creatures. We need to get his life total down, like pretty desperately. And we pass the turn with the Solitude in our back pockets if we really, really need, in the hopes that we draw another land. So we don't block it again. We're going to take our beats. We go down to 8. And he just passes the turn. This is his land drop. So we get our 5th land, and so we play it and we pass. Yeah, we attack just with the Mariner, just in case of some shenanigans. I wanted to keep a blocker back in case of something like a Ragavan or a Swift Spear and a bunch of spells, so that I had some kind of a blocker that wasn't just Solitude. Oop. Oop, no, stop. Okay, so he attacks with the Dragon's Rage Channeler. So I just hard cast Solitude, exiling it. Get it out of here. So then he Thought Seizes away my... So this is going to cost him 3 to be able to do this, unless he lets me draw a card. Which I believe he lets me just draw the card, because if it's a good card, he'll just Thoughtseize it away anyways. Which he does. We drew a land, so we lose our Yorion, but oh well. And there is Ragavan. The Ragavan that I was worried about. Last turn, we draw Meddling Mage, and I think, you know what? That was pretty good last game. I think I want to do it again. I figured that this... I did not think he was going to block Ragavan with Solitude here. Or block Solitude with Ragavan, I should say. And so I just get in with it. I need to gain the life. I need to gain some life. And no, he doesn't block. So I think, you know what? Meddling Mage was pretty good last match. I'm going to play it again, naming Lightning Bolt. And let's see what happens. Because Lightning Bolt and Unholy Heat are the 2 main removal spells in this deck. Until I saw Terminate, targeting Giver of Runes. We are going to be able to draw a card here, which is nice. So this Esper Sentinel is really pulling its weight here when used alongside Unsettled Mariner. So we draw a Glasspool Mimic, which is very, very good. We give our Meddling Mage protection from red, so that we can block the Ragavan if we so desired. But we don't desire that, so there we go. Draw land. But it's a cycling land. So instead we just cast our Glasspool Mimic, copying Solitude, and hitting the Ragavan. And we get in with a couple creatures here. Figure we might as well get in with all of them. Why not? Keeping back our Triome so that we can cycle it if we so desire. And opponent concedes. Sees the writing on the wall and gives up. Game 2. Alright, so opponent gets to go first this time. And let's see what we're up against here. Oh yeah, so sideboarding. So you can see I've taken out 2 Flicker Wisps, all my Aether and all my Teferis. Exact same game plan as last time. We brought in 3 Reflector Mages, we brought in 3 Cerulean Drakes, and we brought in 3 Sanctifier and Vex. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 cards. So check out this sweet Yorion dude. And we look at this hand and we are laughing because we love this hand. It's got everything we want. It's got a turn 1 play. If he's got a turn 1 monkey, we've got the turn 1 prismatic ending. If not, we have the turn 1 Giver of Runes. So opponent just plays that and Inquisitions us, getting rid of Sanctifier and Vec. We find ourselves a land, and we play our Giver of Runes. No, full knowing that it's probably going to die at some point. We get Thoughtseize. We got our hand picked apart a little bit here. And Unholy Heat. So he's down to 3 cards. We're up in terms of cards here still. We drew Athalia, which is awesome. We love to see Athalia. Love to see ya. The champ, the Thraben Championship Wrestling World Women's Champion. Opponent is really bringing his life total down. So it just terminates it. Has all the removal for all of our cards here. We play it untapped and we put Yorion into our hand because why not? Snapcaster Mage, targeting Inquisition of Kozilek instead of Thoughtseize. So uses that Inquisition of Kozilek to take out our Prismatic Ending. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I thought maybe he might want to get the Thoughtseize to get rid of Yorion, but instead he gets our Prismatic Ending, which does kind of make sense. It is a very strong, very efficient removal spell against this deck. So opponent plays a land, does not attack, realizes his life total is lower than ours. Draw Field of Ruin. Pretty innocuous land, but so we decide we're just going to play Yorion here. We need a big blocker, but unfortunately it gets drowned in the lock. the Sky Noodle gets pulled into the ocean. Or the lock. So opponent draws a card off of the Mishra's Bauble. He targeted himself with that activation. We drew another land, which is not really what we wanted. But, you know, is what it is. Lightning Bolt on us, I believe, is what he... Or no, he targets the Mariner with it. So, oh well. We have an empty board again, unfortunately. Opponent's doing a really good job of keeping the board clear. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the music. I decided to add a little bit of royalty-free music to this, just to make it a little more interesting to listen to. Plays a Dragon's Rage Channeler. So unfortunately, Glasspool Mimic is kind of useless on an empty board, by the way, because it's only creatures you control. So it's basically useless. And we draw Solitude, because, yeah, sure. Great card. Great card. Love to see it. Well, we decided, you know what? We'll pass. We can't play the Solitude and the Glasspool Mimic in the same turn, so we'll play the Solitude at the last possible moment. In the hopes that he doesn't have a counterspell. Yep, so opponent attacks with both. We're really hoping he doesn't have counterspell here because we were about to cast a Solitude. He does not counter it, so we get rid of that Dragon's Rage Channeler. He does something, taps some mana here, and we're like, what's going on here? And he Colligan's commands us. So he gets a nice little 2-for-1 here, plus the Surveil. So he kills our Solitude and forces us to discard that Glasspool Mimic that we do have in hand. But we only take 2 life here. We only take 2 damage. So we pass he passes the turn. We get our Jeskai Triome. We draw Thalia. Thalia is good enough here. Thalia is just fine. Blocks that Snapcaster Mage. Opponent still only has 1 card in hand. And that 1 card is Kroxa. Which is scary, makes us sad. And because that's going to whittle away at our life total, especially if he puts your Lurrus into his hand, which he does here. So Lurrus is now in his hand, and he's got a Kroxa in his graveyard, which is mega dangerous. Mega dangerous. Draw Giver Runes, which we don't really want. We play it because we're going to have to discard it anyways. But at least we can block the Kroxa if it shows up. So plays the Kroxa here. We lose 3 life. And we think, okay, we need to draw something like right now. We need to draw something right now, and we do. We draw Skyclave Apparition. Well, how about that? Perfect timing. Get in. Get in there. Attack with Thalia, because why not? We need to get his life total down. And we're starting to think, we're starting to sweat because we got a pretty low life total here. Can't afford too much. So there's Lurrus. Luckily, Skyclave Apparition exile, so he cannot cast Skyclave Apparition here. Or he cannot cast Kroxa, because Skyclave has exiled it. So he looks at the top card of my library. Gets to draw a card on his next upkeep. So he does get to draw a card. He has seen the top card of my library. What is it? What is it? It's a Plains. Womp womp. We just keep it in our hand, forgetting that he knows what it is. We keep back Thalia here. So plays a Bauble. He has to pay 1 for that because of Thalia. He looks at the top card of his library. Plays a Delta and shuffles it away. Doesn't like it. So he doesn't get in with the Lurrus, obviously. So he gets to draw a card here. Has totally broken the Bauble here. But lo and behold, we draw yet another Skyclave apparition. A Flicker Wisp would have been nice there as well. Maybe a Solitude would have been really great. So we had a lot of draws. That seems like a really lucky top deck. And don't get me wrong, it is. But we had a lot of outs. We had a lot of good draws here. Get in with Thalia. We wanted to stop him from drawing so many dang cards. So opponent's turn. See what he wants to do here. He thought seizes us. Which is interesting because he knew the Plains was in our hand because of that bauble. Now that I'm thinking back. Plays a Channeler. Which we're like, uh-oh, we're in trouble now because that kills us in 2 turns, by the way. We draw another land and we're like, oh no, this is bad. We can't attack and this thing is going to kill us in 2 turns. So opponent goes to his main phase and begins combat attacks with the Channeler because he has to. He has no choice. We have no blocks. So it's his post-combat main phase and end step. And we draw a Prismatic Ending. Hooray! We have the removal, so we kill the Dragon's Rage Channeler. Hooray! We play the Plains that he knows about, keeping that other land in hand. Get in for another 2 damage. And it's real close here, so I'm like, don't draw Lightning Bolt, don't draw Lightning Bolt, do not draw Lightning Bolt. That's all that I've got in my mind right now is don't draw Lightning Bolt. So he plays a Bauble. He looks at the top of his own library and then immediately passes the turn. And I'm like, this is suspicious. I'm like, he looked at the top of his library and then immediately passed. Like, really quickly. I don't know if you could tell from the timer, but really, really quickly he passed the turn. And I got a little bit suspicious there. So on my upkeep with the trigger on the stack, cheeky little play here. We go with the Field of Ruin, shuffle his library so that he doesn't get to draw that card. Add some mana. We fetch up. So he draws a card, and we're like, please don't be. I'm like, please don't be Lightning Bolt. We draw our 3rd pathway in a row, which is not good. And we're like, okay, well, I've got lethal on board here, so I'm just going to attack with everybody. And opponent acknowledges that, yeah, Bolt was in fact on top of the library, thanks to that he saw Bolt on top with that Mishra's Bauble and immediately passed. And so that got rid of it. So I would have been dead otherwise. So there we go. That one was fun. That was a neat one. So really kind of thinking outside the box there to get ourselves a win there. Okay, Future Shock. This one's a quick one, I think. That was Future Shock. We're up against Keeper X. Oops. I'm not actually playing. I need to, here we go. Okay. So here's my Yorion. Take a look. We drew a great opening hand. We are on the play as well. So, nope. Stop. Stop. Okay. The replay system on Magic Online is kind of poopy. So, whatever. But we tick up the Aether Vial. Draw a Giver of Runes, and we're like, sweet, man, sweet. So we get ourselves a Stoneforge Mystic, and think about what you might want to get here with this Stoneforge Mystic fetch. I decide I want to get them all in the Skyclaves. Because I have a really... I see a Wooded Foothills, and I'm like, okay, this Stoneforge Mystic is definitely going to die. I see he gets a Triome. I'm like, okay, all right. Maybe he's not going to die. Maybe we're up against some kind of control deck, and maybe I should have gotten Kaldra. But nope, lo and behold, he gets Lightning Bolted, and there it is. So he fetched another land, and I notice, okay, now it's Rogran Triome, Zagoth Triome. He now has all 5 basic land types. I'm like, okay, this is Domain. This is that Domain Zoo deck. So I activate the Aether Vial. I didn't forget this time. I've tightened up my play, evidently, and Giver Runes comes out. I don't pass the turn just skipping it, like I often do when I'm streaming. We drew a land, which is great. And, okay, so we do something cheeky here. We did something cheeky here. So I cast Maul the Skyclaves, holding priority. In response to my own Maul the Skyclaves, I activate Aether Vial. And I put out Thalia. Because I wanted this Maul the Skyclaves to be attached to Thalia. But if I cast Thalia, if I put out Thalia with the Aether Vial, I'm no longer going to be able to cast the Maul. And but I don't want them all to go on the Giver Runes, so this is the only way I could do it. So we equip it onto Thalia. I could have made it less complicated for myself and just did it with the Unsettled Mariner instead, but I think Thalia might have been a little bit better here in this situation. I could be wrong. Like, I was still a little bit unknown in what was going on, and the Lightning Bolt, so in the end it didn't even matter really. Either way, it would have been he would have had to pay 2 for that, no matter which one I chose. So I up the Aether Vial, of course. We get in with good old Thalia. And we just double spell here. Get out the Mariner and the Sentinel. Get all 3 tax aspects out. So this is the all 3 of the we call this the CRA. Thalia taxing you just straight off the bat. Unsettled Mariner taxes you if you want to affect one of our things, and Esper Sentinel taxes you unless you give us let us draw a card. Let us draw a cheeky little card. Doesn't really matter too much because as we discover, there's not many non-creature spells in this deck. So he finds Ragavan with Ranger Captain of Eos, which I think is kind of interesting. So we just we needed a target for the Skyclave Apparition, so we just took the opportunity there, because this lets us get in for a ton of damage this turn. Play a land. Get it. No, I mean, I don't know about a ton of damage, but it lets us get in for a lot of damage. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 damage. Sets up lethal for next turn. And then I decide to be a little bit cheeky, and I move them all the Skyclaves over to the Esper Sentinel. This way, whenever he casts a non-creature spell, he has to pay 3, or we get to draw a card. An opponent just concedes from there. He had 7 cards. I love it when when the opponent has 7 cards in hand, and they just draw their card and just straight up concede. Love to see that. So let's go to game 2. Shall we? So opponent gets to go first this time. This game was a little bit more interesting, if I remember correctly. So here's our boarding choices. We didn't have a whole lot. We took out 1 Esper Sentinel and 2 Unsettled Mariners for 3 Reflector Mages. Is what we did in this situation. Sanctifier and Vec, the protection from red and black seemed okay, but didn't do, I don't know. Maybe I should have brought Sanctifier in, but I don't know what I would cut in response to bringing in Sanctifiers. Whoops, hit the wrong button there. There we go. So we see this hand, and we're happy about this. We got Aether Vial. We got a turn 1, turn 2 combination here in Aether Vial into Stoneforge Mystic. So besides playing Ragavan on turn 1 or Darcy on turn 1, Aether Vial into Stoneforge Mystic is a pretty powerful play. So he pretty powerful turn 1, turn 2 play. So he dashes out Ragavan here, and I'm like, oh crap. He's gonna get something here. If he gets a Prismatic Vista or Prismatic Ending off of that, where he can hit our Aether Vial, and it's bad news. But he hits a land, which we're totally happy with because we did not want to draw a land here. Has his own Prismatic Ending. and takes out our Aether Vial anyways. But we draw our own Prismatic Ending, and we go fetch ourselves a land and play a Stoneforge Mystic. In hindsight, I could have gotten the Godless Shrine here, but I had the Marsh Flat, so if I really wanted the Godless Shrine, I could get it next turn. In this case, I get Batterskull. So I grab Batterskull here because I'm one land away from being able to just cast it. So there's a Territorial Kavu. And you don't want Territorial Kavu to attack. So I decide just to kill it. Realize I can't I can't use Field of Ruin because colorless is not a color of mana. So that would not work with that would not work there. And I could have just gotten out Batterskull here, but I think getting rid of that Territorial Kavu was a better choice. And then out comes the Ragavan again. We'll see what he gets this time. He missed so far. He's missed another land. Missed one of his land drops, and he hasn't played a land yet this turn. So he attacks, gets in. He does get a Unsettled Mariner, but he cannot cast it. He doesn't have the mana, unless he plays a land here, which I don't think he does. Yeah, he does not. So the Nimble Pilfer goes back into hand. So we bump up our Aether Vial. We did draw that land. We fetch. And I believe we just passed the turn here. Yes, we just passed the turn here so that we can get out Batterskull. So he plays his own Stoneforge Mystic here, and I'm a little bit worried because he's probably going to get Kaldra, and sure enough he does. I'm like, I don't really have a great answer for Kaldra. And now he's got Ragavan out. Thinking, okay, well, might as well get my Batterskull out, get some value off of that for the before we get our you-know-what pushed in by Kaldra Complete. We decide to Field of Ruin, one of his Triome, to bring down his... yeah, so I remember what I decided to do here. I used my one Field of Ruin on that land, and then I decided to use the other Field of Ruin on this land to just force him to go down to 2 basic land types. He had to get himself a Plains here, and I wasn't sure if he had it, so I just wanted to force him to have it. So we attack, we get in, we gain some life. We're going to need it. We're going to need to gain some life. An opponent forgets to activate Stoneforge Mystic here. So I don't know if that was a mistake by the opponent. I've certainly made that mistake before. After playing Stoneforge Mystic for so long, you all want to hold on to it so that you can bring out Batterskull defensively. Whereas Kaldra Complete has haste, so it's an offensive equipment. So I'm not quite sure if opponents meant to do that or not. So in hindsight, I realize I like had the answer for Kaldra Complete this whole time. Oh yeah, so he Force of Vigors here. The Batterskull and the Aether Vial. So I bring out Flicker Wisp here to Flicker Wisp my Batterskull, because I really wanted to save my Batterskull. So we end combat, and I cast my other Flicker Wisp. Foolishly here, I think. I think what I was trying to do was make my get my own Kaldra Complete. So the Batterskull comes back. And also the Stoneforge Mystic comes back. And here I believe we fetch our own Kaldra. Yes, we fetch our own Kaldra. So what I should have done here... So I realize now this is probably a mistake. What I should have done is I should have just used this Flicker Wisp to get rid of the Germ token. Like, I don't quite know what I was thinking here. I think maybe I got a little bit tunnel visioned into saying, oh, he's got Kaldra. I need my Kaldra. to my detriment. But yeah, so he uses his Cauldron defensively here, and uses Winds of Abandon on my Flicker Wisp, which is an interesting removal spell to have in that deck. He's still missing his land drops here. So so we get another Stoneforge Mystic. We use it. We get ourselves a Maul. We use the other one to bring out Cauldron. And that's the end of the game because we have lethal. 3 damage here, 5 damage here, plus another 2 from the Maul, the Skyclaves. So yeah, opponent just concedes at that point. And yeah, that's match number 4. And at this point, I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. Maybe we're getting the 5-0 this time. I don't know. I don't want to get my hopes up though. And but here we go. We find our opponent for match number 3. And we're up against a guy named Bench Summer. So this was a tough match. I remember this one. This one was really, really tough. So we don't see a Lurrus on the other side, but we see our hand has an Aether Vial. We're on the draw, so depending on what our opponent goes with, we have the choice of either Giver or Aether Vial first. Then we got some other plays, but we do need another white mana source here. So we see a Bauble, he looks at his own library, plays a Triome, and passes. And I'm thinking, oh, this is kind of weird. So this is a Temur deck. What Temur decks are out there? Whoops, nope, hit the wrong button again. I know Temur Crashing Footfalls, I'm thinking maybe, but no, not Crashing Footfalls because he's playing Mishra's Bauble. So I'm not quite sure what I'm up against here at this point. And so I just go with the safe choice and go with Aether Vial. On the off chance that I do not draw that second white source to be able to cast stuff like Flicker Wisp and Skyclave Apparition. And I see a Tarmogoyf, which I think is interesting. A Tarmogoyf that is already a 2/3. Thanks to Mishra's Bauble. So we drew a Stoneforge Mystic, which we are absolutely thrilled about. We use the Stoneforge Mystic, I don't think I end up getting Cauldron here because I'm pretty sure I'm seeing these cards and I'm like, yeah, no, Stoneforge Mystic is definitely dying. So yeah, I grab Batterskull instead because I'm 1 land away from casting Batterskull. Okay, we're back. Had a little OBS hiccup there, but everything is still good. Okay, so we get ourselves a Stoneforge Mystic. We got ourselves a Batterskull with this Stoneforge Mystic, and we just pass the turn, hoping we're not totally dead here, because we're not quite sure what we're up against. And sure enough, there's the Lightning Bolt, which made me happy that we got Batterskull. A Serum Visions, which I think is kind of interesting, and then I realized, oh yeah, that grows Tarmogoyf even more. So I'm starting to think, maybe, is this like a DRC deck? So we bring out on the end step, we bring out Giver of Runes. We've tightened up our play. We don't miss those anymore. We draw not a white source, a white source. Blah, I can use words. So we decide we are going to play the Field of Ruin because we want to get ourselves a white source. So on upkeep, we kill that Triome. Uses the mana to Thought Scour himself. Oh, Thought Scour us. He Thought Scours us there. We get ourselves our second white source. He interestingly does not get a green source, so we've effectively cut him off green here. Expressive Iteration. This card, coincidentally, really, really good. We're going to see a lot of this card in this deck. So he gets a Dragon's Rage Channeler into the exile zone. Plays a land, and then casts the... I believe he casts the Dragon Rage Channeler here. So this makes me really wish I had a 2-drop here, but I don't, so I cannot block it. Yeah, so he casts the Dragon's Rage Channeler from exile, and he has 4 card types out. We definitely say yes to that Aether Vial there. And so we're going to double Skyclave Apparition here. First, we target the Tarmogoyf, and then we just keep up the other one. just as a nice little surprise. Nice little surprise. So yeah, attacks with the Channeler. We could hit either, we could do it with the Flicker Wisp and then block it. But instead I decide to Skyclave Apparition and just get rid of it. We can Skyclave, we can Flicker Wisp the Skyclave Apparition later to just get rid of a different threat later on, if we so desire. Opponent's doing something here that Mitgo doesn't like. And there it is, Murktide Regent, and we're like, oh, I'm like, oh crap, all right, I need Solitude, and I need it right now. So we draw a card, and instead, we draw Hallowed Fountain. So I kept it at 3 in this case because there is literally 0 benefit for going up to 4 there, and I just cast Batterskull. Just cast it. Just hard cast it. Gets counterspelled. Whatever. That's okay. So we had the answer we were kind of looking for in Flicker Wisp. So we're going to bring that out with Aether Vial, and decides to draw. He just decides to draw a card here. So we say yes to that, and Flicker Wisp is going to take out that Murktide Regent. Still decides to cast Unholy Heat. We give our Flicker Wisp protection from red in response. There's a Ragavan. So the Murktide Regent does come back, but it doesn't come back with those 4+1/+1 counters that are on it. And now I decide to bring it up to 4 charge counters. I just bring Yorion into my hand, cast Thalia, pass the turn. We're still dead to double Lightning Bolt. Or Bolt Snap Bolt, which I don't think this deck is playing. So Unholy Heat, sure. Attacks with Murktide. Yeah, that Unholy Heat was to take out our only flyer. An opponent passes the turn. So we need Solitude, and we need it on this draw step, and we get Esper Sentinel instead. So, you know, such is life. You can't always get what you want. We play the Esper Sentinel, and we pass the turn. Keeping up our Yorion in hand for Aether Vial. And he just casts another Murktide Regent. And the first Murktide Regent is grown by the second Murktide Regent. So now I'm facing down 2 6/6s. So I have to bring out Yorion here and just chump block it. I do flicker my Skyclave Apparition just to get that Ragavan. He only gets a 1/1 for it. Should have done that with the should have flickered the Aether Vial as well. I missed that, but I drew a Thalia and I'm like, I'm dead. Let's go to game number 2. So game 2. I'm starting to feel a little discouraged here, but we're gonna keep going, knowing that I can beat this deck. So sideboard, I took out the Meddling Mages because wow, Meddling Mage, like, they run not a whole lot of threats. But if I name Lightning Bolt, he's still going to be able to get all of his threats out. And if I name one of the threats, like Murktide Regent or Dragon's Rage Channeler, it's just going to die to a Bolt or an Unholy Heat. So I just took it out. I also took out the Unsettled Mariners because I don't think they really care too much about the removal in the, It dies really, really easily, and so I just took it out because I needed to make a lot of space. I also took out all the Flicker Wisps because I brought in all 3 Sanctifier and Vex. I brought in all 3 Cerulean Drakes because this is the matchup that those are in there for. Brought in all 3 Reflector Mages as well. And I also brought in 2 Rest in Pieces, both the Rest in Pieces because of Murktide Regent, so that he can't delve it away. And then that's why I needed to take out a lot of stuff. So I took out all the Flicker Wisps. because they die to like everything, and took out the Unsettled Mariners and the Metal Mage. And I also took out one Cauldron Complete, which is a choice I think I end up regretting because I boarded back in on game 3. Don't hit, okay. I mulliganed that first hand because it was bad. You don't need to worry about it. This hand I think is okay. I do need, like, I realize this hand is really slow, and I'm like, man, this hand's pretty bad. But I keep it anyways because I didn't want to pitch another. I didn't want to go to 5. This hand was good enough. So I lead off with the Glacial Fortress. Opponent looks at the top card of his library, decides, yeah, that he wants to keep it. So we go to our draw step. Our upkeep. He draws a card off a bauble. I really do think this card is way too efficient for Modern right now. We drew not a land, so instead I play this blue land to make our land drops so that we can play Reflector Mage if we need to. If we draw a white source, we'd be able to cast Skyclave Apparition next turn. So that was the land that had the most upside. Or at least the least downside of us being forced. Like, if we don't draw a land on the next turn, and we're forced to play this as our land, as our third land, we're not going to be happy. We're not going to be too happy about that. So he finds a Tarmogoyf. So we don't draw a land, but we do draw an Aether Vial. So we can Reflector Mage here if we so desire, and but we don't. We decide to Field of Ruin so that we can get another white source, and then we use that white source just to cast Aether Vial. So that was I think that was really the most value we could get out of that turn. This Tarmogoyf is not going to grow too much. I go, great, another Tarmogoyf. And a Channeler. I'm like, okay, how do I come back from this? It's a lot of that's a lot of threatening creatures. So basically this deck is it Dragon's Rage Channeler splashing green for Tarmogoyf, which I think is kind of interesting. So we draw Stoneforge Mystic here, which we love, and we go in with the Skyclave Apparition. We needed to get rid of one of those Tarmogoyfs because those Tarmogoyfs were getting pretty threatening. He's only got 2 card types in his graveyard right now, so we're pretty sure he's not going to be able to use that Dragon's Rage Channeler. Sorry, I'm yawning. It's kind of late here in Winnipeg. I hit the play button instead. Attacks with Tarmogoyf. We have no answers to that, so we're not going to block. So we have an opportunity to tick up the Aether Vial, and we draw Teferi, which is interesting. So we decide to cast the Reflector Mage first. So in the previous Izzet decks, we took out Teferi. Against Izzet Prowess, we took out Teferi. In this deck, we did not take it out because its bounce is really, really good against Murktide Regent. So we decide to bounce the Tarmogoyf. And attack with Skyclave Apparition. We do not live in fear. We have no fear. Just draws a card instead. So no fear, no fear. I think we were maybe hoping he would do a Lava Dart so that we can Sanctifier Invec in response. And get rid of that from the graveyard. So he Thought Scours himself here, because he wants to be able to cast a Murktide Regent, perhaps. So begins combat, so he does get up to 4 card types here, which is, is what it is. It's fine, it's fine. So here we decide to, what did I decide to do here? Okay, so here is an interesting line here that I missed, and I caught a little bit too late. I should have done this on the attack phase. So what I'm about to do here, what I had initially planned to do was bring out Sanctifier Invec, which will remove Expressive Iteration out of his graveyard, which will shrink the Dragon's Rage Channeler down to a 1/1. And if I had done that, I would have been able to block with any of these creatures, with the Sanctifier or the Reflector Mage. But he decides he wants to do a bunch of stuff here in response. So these Surveils might not have it might not have mattered with these Surveils. And I believe he casts another yeah, he casts a Lightning Bolt on the Skyclave Apparition. And so my thought process here is, you know what? I don't think I want to get out Sanctifier and Vec here. Because I'm going to be able to cast Sanctifier and Vec next turn and shrink his graveyard down anyways. And while he's mostly tapped out, I can just go get a big equipment with Stoneforge Mystic. Because this is on his turn, remember? So I do that, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get Kaldra. Oh right, I boarded out Kaldra. That's a mistake. So I bring in Batterskull. I get Batterskull instead. Hopefully to gain us some life. So we pump up the Aether Vial here. We were hoping to draw land. So we do what we said we were going to do, and we're going to get out Sanctifier and Vec. And we pass the turn. We were really hoping to draw land there. A white source preferably. And then we get hit with a Kozilek's Return, which was interesting. Kills literally everything on the board, including his own Dragon's Rage Channeler. So I think he just wanted to clear the board here. Plays a Tarmogoyf. Rest in Peace would have been really good in this. Rest in Peace was, I think, a good choice to bring in because of Tarmogoyf as well. We decide to bring up the Aether Vial. And with a single creature on board, playing Teferi is usually the right thing to do. We drew a land, which is great, and we put that land into play. And there's Darcy again, good old Darcy. And then kills our Teferi with an Unholy Heat, so oh well. Unholy Heat, good card, really good card. I'm glad it doesn't go to the Dome. It doesn't go to the Dome, right? Yeah, it does not go to the Dome. Thank goodness. And there's that Tarmogoyf again. We bounced with Teferi. A Solitude here would be really nice. We draw an island instead. We Prismatic Ending the Tarmogoyf to get rid of that. Too threatening. And then we bring Yorion into hand. Yorion will quite easily block Dragon's Rage Channeler if we need it to. Happy to trade. Honestly, I would trade Yorion for Dragon's Rage Channeler if I really needed to. So there he's got the 4 card types. So I bring out my Yorion. And this time I remember, hey, dummy, you gotta hit your Aether Vial. Excuse me. And cast an Unholy Heat on Yorion, so it didn't matter anyways. The Yorion tried so hard, got so far. But in the end, it didn't even matter. So we're back in the game with this Aether Vial. We can use it to bring out this Giver of Runes. And we see that our opponent has 1 card in hand, and we're like, does he have... Is it Counterspell? I bet it's not, and it was not. Because we need to start gaining some life here. We're going to be able to protect that Batterskull with Giver of Runes pretty soon. Bolts us to bring us down to 7. So we're starting to be in a little bit of trouble here. Because this is going to get us down to 4 life. He's got 1 card in hand. We're not sure what it is. Opponent attacks. We have no blockers. It's got flying. It's Delver. It's a Delver of Secrets. It's a better Delver. So while we're focused here, we bring out a Giver Runes. And we hope to draw like a Solitude maybe, or a Prismatic Ending, or maybe a Skyclave Apparition. We draw a Stoneforge Mystic, which is lovely. And we wonder if, and we know it's not lethal. It's not lethal, but we do have a Maul of the Skyclaves that we can use here, and we can hard cast it because we've got a ton of mana. Attach it up to our Batterskull Germ, Phyrexian Germ, and we gain some life back. Batterskull, pretty good still. Pretty good still. So we get out the Sanctifier, and to get rid of some cards out of their graveyard. Casts a Mishra's Bauble, looks at the top of his own library, and decides, nope, I'm dead. Because he was dead on board here. So, all right, we saved it. We're still in this. It was a slow starting hand, but we were able to pull it out. So in this one, we brought back in the Kaldra, as you will see in once I reveal my sideboard here. We bring back in Kaldra, and we took out one Cerulean Drake, because Cerulean Drake not as good against Murktide Regent. So check out this Yorion. We look at this hand and we're like, sweet. This hand is not exactly the nut draw, but a very, very good hand. So we snap keep it. Opponent leads off with a Misty Rainforest and passes the turn. We lead off with a Godless Shrine and a Giver of Runes. We're just going to give her. Opponent plays another land and passes the turn, which I thought was kind of interesting. So we just get in there with the Sanctifier. Why not? Sanctifier was super good last game. Thought Scours us. Thought Scours us. There's our Rest in Peace, by the way. And a Stoneforge Mystic got milled away, unfortunately. But I think he was just trying to fill up our graveyard for his Tarmogoyfs, is what I think he was doing there, which is smart, which is a good play, which is a really good plan. There's a Bauble. Looks at the top card of my library in that case, and goes in with a Expressive Iteration, which would shuffle his library if he looked at the top of his, but... and 2 cards enter the exile zone. So the Expressive Iteration goes into exile, but he got a land. And plays that land. So opponent's off to a very slow start here, which we are very happy about because we got the quick start this game. Opponent draws a card. Draw another Glacial Fortress, which we're very happy about. We've got some decisions to make here. You know, we could just slam a Cerulean Drake. We could slam a Cerulean Drake and Aether Vial. We could Glasspool Mimic, copying Sanctifier and Vec if we wanted to. But I think the safer play is just Aether Vial, Cerulean Drake, which I think is what I go. Which I'm pretty sure is what I go with here. Bam. All right. We got a pretty good board here. We're thinking we got a pretty good board. We're pretty well protected. We just have to dodge. Some Murktide Regents, and we'll be okay. So there's a Darcy. We've got the anti-Darcy tech in Cerulean Drake. Unholy Heat, targeting our Giver of Runes, of course. Gets to Surveil. See if that gets a 4th card type into his graveyard. It does not. That goes right into exile because thanks to Sanctifier and Vec. So good. So glad I had 3 in my sideboard for this league. That was such a good plan. So there's a Reflector Mage. So I play a land, and I believe in this case I still I just get in with the Sanctifier. While I've got a total brick wall against this Dragon's Rage Channeler, I feel like I didn't want him to get too much value out of the constant surveils. So I decide to Reflector Mage it. But it gets counterspelled, so oh well. Oh well. Turns out y'all were right about counterspell, by the way. Totally good enough for modern. Not too good for modern, by the way. Totally right about that. So Ancient Grudge enters the exile zone. Why did Ancient Grudge enter the exile? Oh yeah, because it's a red card, of course. I thought in my mind it was a green card that flashback for red. So searches, and he did that with his Surveil with the Dragon's Rage Channeler. So he got himself a Murktide Regent off of that expressive iteration. So he's going to be able to cast it. And he's paying costs here for that. And lo and behold, yeah, plays the Murktide Regent. So I'm at this point, I'm like, I need a Solitude, and I need it right now. I need Solitude, and I need it right now. So we go to our upkeep, we put something on Vial, and we draw Teferi instead, which we are very happy about. And we say bye-bye to that Murktide Regent while drawing us a card. Teferi, real good in this meta. Real good. And we drew a Stoneforge Mystic, which we can bring out with Aether Vial if we so desire. So that was about the best draw we could possibly have, I think. Besides Solitude, maybe. But Teferi is probably even just better. Because it also stops Counterspell and all that, all those shenanigans. So he gets a Dragon's Rage Channeler into exile. Just Lightning Bolts Teferi, so there we go. Puts a Tarmogoyf into his graveyard. Lightning Bolt enters the exile zone, so now he's got two Dragon's Rage Channelers. Oh, excuse me, attacks with the Dragon's Rage Channeler. So we block it. We got a brick wall against it. Has to attack if able. Once it becomes its Delver mode, or once it becomes its Insectile Aberration mode. And then casts a Tarmogoyf, which we're pretty happy about actually, because now we know the way is clear to be able to get ourselves our Kaldra, which we sideboarded back in, thankfully. So we go get our Caldy boy, which opponent has not seen yet. I think maybe he was thinking we didn't play it, and then we just straight up draw Maul the Skyclaves, and I'm like, I think this is lethal, is what I kind of say to myself, and then I realize, oh no, it's not lethal yet. I got a little bit excited, and I'm like, I think this is lethal. I'm like, nope, no, I don't. I'm 1 mana short of it being lethal. But I do play it safe, and I just straight up get rid of that Tarmogoyf, because it blocks the Germ, like completely, and without any trample. And I wanted to get through with some trample damage, because I want to get his life total down just as low as possible. And we've got Glasspool Mimic in our back pocket if we really need it. And cast Ancient Grudge, targeting the Aether Vial. So we're like, all right, well, it's now or never, so we use it. We use it, and we figure we might as well just become another Cerulean Drake. Just to have another. And opponent concedes, sees the writing on the wall, and we get extremely excited. And looking at our 5-0, and there we go. So that was a lot of fun. I did this while getting in between rounds. I got my sourdough bread dough ready. It's an all-day process, so those will be going in the oven tomorrow morning, which I'm very happy about. And then I got 11 chests. I opened them up, and in one of the chests was an Old Border Force of Negation, which I immediately sold to MTGO traders for 81 tickets. So this was a pretty good league overall. And so if we go back to the deck here, and we kind of look back at what cards were really good, I really like this setup. There weren't really any cards that didn't really impress. This equipment package I think is great. I don't know what I would, if I wanted to squeeze in a sword, I maybe could, but the way Modern is, Modern's too fast to be able to pay an equipped cost. It's too fast. In the sideboard, you know, maybe these Cerulean Drakes are a little bit cheeky, but you know, they do their job. And they did them well in that last match. The only card we did not board in was Kataki War's Wage. And with I do think it's correct to have it in the sideboard because of how prevalent Hammer Time is, and it's really good against Hammer Time. So yeah, that's the deck, that's the league. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see me play live on camera when it's not almost midnight and I don't have all the lights on, you can tune in at twitch.tv/danbjorn, and I post most of my VODs on this channel here. So you can check it out there. So twitch.tv/danbjorn, and stream every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Central Time for Monday Night Draw, my wrestling themed stream. And hopefully we will see you there. And yeah, leave your questions, comments right down there in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe for more wonderful Taxes content. See you next time.